Yeah, it's true. Us Doberman owners can get a little over-obsessed with our dogs sometimes. But I'll tell you what, if it was just you against the world, in my opinion, there's just about no better breed to have at your side than the Doberman Pinscher. But even with 100 videos now and counting on my channel, you guys, my subscribers, are still coming up with some really great questions that I just haven't addressed yet. So this video is dedicated to you guys. I'm gonna answer as many of your questions as possible, all about the Doberman breed, no matter how strange they might be. So let's jump into it. Okay, up first, Angie Wildermuth asked, is tug-of-war a bad game to play with your Doberman? I've had people tell me it leads to aggression. Angie is a longtime fan on my Facebook page. Thank you so much for the question, Angie. It builds confidence in Dobermans, not aggression. So, but here's where it can be an issue. So if your dog is already, let's say, jockeying for position in the household, maybe they're under 1 year of age when they're in that phase where they're trying to figure out where their pecking order in the house, and you already maybe have a dominant dog and you're playing lots of tug-of-war with them, and maybe they're beating you all the time, you're letting them win all the time, that could really build their confidence up and lead to a dominance issue, and dominance issues can lead to aggression, and that's where people can get into trouble with that. But remember, it builds confidence, so it can be a good thing too. If you happen to have a Doberman that's a little bit on the timid side, needs some reassurance all the time, a little bit scared in different situations, and you do need to build that confidence, then tug-of-war can actually be a good thing. But that's usually not the issue with Dobermans. Dobermans tend to not have a problem with lack of confidence, so that's why in general I usually recommend steering clear of tug-of-war, or at least if you do it, make sure you usually win, unless of course you're trying to build confidence in an otherwise timid dog. Up next, Sherry asked, how do you car travel with Arlo? Seatbelt, crate, or does he just lounge in the back seat? Well, I have young kids, so they're usually in the back. Arlo is typically in the back if we're in my wife's SUV, just in the back area, or if we're in my pickup truck, I have a shell on my pickup truck, he's in the back shell area. It's carpeted back there, it's real nice and comfortable. I just like to keep it really simple with him, because the more simple it is, the more I'm inclined to be able to just toss him in the car and get going somewhere. If I gotta load up a crate every time, or I gotta make a big process out of it, or pull out my kids' child seats out of the back seat, for example, to make room for them, that'll just make it so I take him places less often. So I try to keep it simple. He just goes in the back, but he does great back there. Now, Tiffany Pace asks, I'm in the process of adopting a Doberman. One of the reasons, among many others, is I want a jogging partner. You said in videos before that I need to wait until they're 2 years old for growth reasons, I believe. Does this count on grassy areas as well, or just pavement? Does this also mean I need to keep walk short until he's older? Love your channel and all you do, you and Arlo's antics. I have a notebook dedicated to training from watching your channel. It's been a huge asset. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a fan, Tiffany. It means a lot. That notebook idea is awesome. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. Yeah, I think what you're referring to is the growth plates. As a dog is getting older, the growth plates on the end of their bones are still forming to make the full joint and really a cohesive, strong joint. And if you do a lot of heavy impact exercise before that's formed, my understanding is that can really damage the joint. So 2 years of age, you should definitely be fine, but I've always heard 18 months of age has been kind of the safe threshold for when you can start doing more strenuous exercise. And you're right, it is on harder surfaces, so concrete would be an issue. Grassy areas, maybe not as much of an issue. I still wouldn't run marathons with your puppy or anything like that, but soft grassy areas, my understanding is a lot safer than that. I definitely wait to 18 months with my dogs, but check with your vet to be sure before you go on any long runs. Darren Rag asks, does your wife accuse you of loving the Doberman more than you love her? Oh boy. Also, what is your answer and how do you duck the question, as it's probably true? My wife is pretty on board with Arlo, me and Arlo. She's on the same page with me with him. We're definitely into the dog. Of course, maybe she's not into him on a daily basis and doing as much stuff with him as maybe I am. But yeah, we're on a similar page with Arlo. But you know, she's never just flat out asked me that question straight up. Who do you love more? Illimani Fergozo asks, is there any difference between large bone Dobermans and regular Dobermans besides the size? Significant health temperament or longevity differences. Honestly, I've never heard of a large bone Doberman, unless of course you're talking about Warlock Dobermans or King Dobermans. Those terms sometimes people use to describe larger Dobermans, but that's largely just a marketing term that some backyard breeders will use to sell their dogs, make them sound a little more valuable. But there are some larger Dobermans that pop up from time to time that are really actually just a mix between other breeds, like Rottweiler and Doberman, or Great Dane and Doberman. Dober Dane, as it's called, is another popular one. I actually have a whole video all about Warlock and King Dobermans coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. That'll explain a lot of this in a lot more detail. As far as the health of them goes, if you're talking a mixed dog, then that's a whole different world. But if you're talking about just larger Dobermans in general, there is one study that comes to mind by the American Veterinary Medical Association that I read a while back that basically showed that male Dobermans had a slightly higher risk of DCM and bone and joint and hip problems than female Dobermans did. And in the study, it wasn't entirely clear why that was. A lot of Doberman folks out there seem to think that that's because the males are on average slightly larger than the females, thus making, the heart having to work a little harder, a little more susceptible to DCM, and the bone, joint, and hip issues a little more frequent, just again, because of their larger size. If that's the case, then I would expect any larger bone Dobermans or slightly bigger Dobermans to also be at slightly higher risk for these things as well. Petro Stetsko asks, have you ever dealt with chin acne? If so, how do you treat it? My boy has had it for 8 months and it doesn't seem to go away. Super common with Dobermans. They have really sensitive skin, right? And here, actually, I dealt with this with Arlo just recently, and I took a picture. Here's Arlo's chin, the bottom of his chin, not too long ago, a few months back when I was dealing with this issue. Again, super common. Where it usually comes from is while they're eating. While they're eating out of their food bowl, they're rubbing the bottom of their chin on the food bowl as they go, which can cause kind of this reaction here. And with Cooper, my previous Doberman, I solved it with him eventually by finally switching the material that his food bowl was made out of. I couldn't solve it any other way with him. So he was eating out of a stainless steel bowl, and I switched it to plastic, and the whole problem went away. He had some sort of skin sensitivity to that metal bowl. With most Dobermans, usually they're eating out of a plastic bowl and you have to switch it to a stainless steel and then it goes away. That's, I don't know, Cooper was a little unusual for that reason. But there's also ceramic bowls which you can try as well. So I'd try switching up the material of the feeding bowl. Also with Arlo, it was a little different with him. For him, I just had to clean the chin a little bit a few times. I kept his bowl extra clean in between feedings and it went away on its own in a couple weeks. So I think every dog's a little different, but try one of those things. And again, super common. I think you'll get past it pretty quick. Julie Taylor asks, how do Cooper and Arlo differ? Now, Cooper was my previous Doberman. You might have seen him soon after I started launching this channel. He passed away actually not too long after that, a handful of videos in. Arlo is my current Doberman, and they definitely differ. Each Doberman is unique and they have their own personality. I don't care what anyone says, they're each their own dog for sure. And Cooper was just more cautious in general. He was very cautious to go through his dog door, for example. It took like a month of training to get him to go through his dog door because he was kind of weirded out by it. We can block off a room with Cooper with a cardboard box by setting an empty cardboard box in the middle of, like, let's say a hallway. And he wouldn't want to push past it because of the noise it'd make and because it'd be kind of weird and different. If we were doing dishes, Cooper would just leave the room because the clanging of the dishes kind of bothered him and he didn't like that either. So he was just super cautious. He wasn't scared, like he wasn't timid. He'd be fine interacting with other dogs, and kids and babies and everything else, but he just was cautious around the house, which actually made training household manners with him super easy. Arlo, on the other hand, he's more stubborn, more headstrong. He has higher exercise requirements, just a different dog. Cooper, if he wanted attention, he just kind of stare at me and just kind of make it awkward until I interacted with him. Arlo just kind of smashes his face right into me, which is something we had to work through. He's gotten a lot better at it. But training household manners because of the differences in their personalities with Arlo definitely took more time and dedication. He's getting really dialed in though. He's doing a lot better than he used to. Cooper, on the other hand, a lot of the household manner stuff just came natural to him because he was so cautious. So two very different dogs with their own personalities for sure. Guys, all these questions were pulled from my Facebook page at facebook.com/DobermanPlanet. So if you want the opportunity to interact with me a little bit more, you can always go over there and keep an eye out for other opportunities. I posted this one saying I needed questions for an upcoming video, so a lot of these people got in on that. But you can keep an eye there for anything that's upcoming. Again, facebook.com/DobermanPlanet, and you can be on the inside crew, or as I call it, my Doberman breed ambassadors. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button down below and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed taking your questions today. This was a lot of fun. I'm gonna do another one of these videos really soon because this was a good time. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.